Hey colleagues, Ian Gordon here from Brock Library. Just introducing you to the Introduction to SciVal Benchmarking Workshop. Thanks to DSL for making this happen, and colleagues to participate. I look forward to the workshop on December 7th. You'll get notification of how to access the workshop, so I look forward to seeing you then. The workshop will involve many things. One thing it'll do is what the description says. It'll offer a quick introduction, access, some ideas, but we're going to talk about now things about SciFinder and benchmarking software. To give you a context, you may be well familiar with this, you may never have mentioned or talked or know about this, introduce you to a number of resources that help you to be better informed. So when we join the workshop, we'll do an overview of homework and the database, then we'll have an expert come in and show us a few more tips and tricks. Here's the presentation today I'd like to give you. We're going to do where to find more information, ask questions, get help, so links, contacts, and names. How to register and gain access to SciVal. Pretty simple, but you need to do this before the workshop so that you can play with it and then access it either now, during the workshop, or afterwards. We're going to talk about alternate metrics databases. I'm going to show you and provide commentary on how this fits into sociometric and bibliometric and metrics in general. Show you some screenshots. We'll show you my account just to show you how it works, just to get an orientation. Then, yes, there's homework. You'll need to do homework, not only watching this video, signing up and registering. We'll go over that, but also to do some stuff so that you'll be prepared and to be informed as we move through the workshop as well. So where to get more information, ask questions, and get help? Well, Elsevier SciVal. There's a URL that you can get. Guillaume, hope I pronounced your name correctly, will be joining us for the workshop. It's his name, his address, or he's a senior consultant, and his email. So thanks for forwarding that email. You can contact him at any time. He's our Canadian or Brock contact. Clarivate, we're going to talk about Insights, the database. It's their competitor and one of the two databases of importance that we'll talk about. Marissa's name is there and her email address, as well as Clarivate's address as well. We don't subscribe to Insights, but we'll talk more about that in a minute. The Brock University Digital Scholarship Lab, the DSL, great people, to Tim, Daniel, and others who help out. So if you have any questions about this or afterwards, great resource here at Brock University. And Brock Library Research Help, in case at any time you have any information, questions, something's not working. There's our contact URL that you could use, libhelp@brocku.ca. Someone's always answering that at all times for whatever query. And they'll forward requests on or try to answer things that may be helpful as well. Then my name, Ian Gordon. I'm a science liaison librarian. There's my email address as well. How to register and gain access to SciVal. Well, move through the Brock Library Process Access. So the Brock kind of provides proxy access and loads this database, as long as it's a suite of over 300 or 400 other databases. But if you go to this URL, not only as you authenticate through Brock, it'll take you to the appropriate pages for SciVal as well. And then to use SciVal, like other databases, there aren't too many at Brock. You have to create an account or you have to register for it. So go there. Again, it's proxied. Sign up, make a username and password. So when you come to Brock University through the proxy access, our IP domain, you're authenticated, and then you sign in, creating your username and account. It should work out quite well. Once you get in, your first page should look like this. It says SciVal, welcome, the benchmarking module that we have access to, reporting, how to send things and push things to your own personal use. And on the top right-hand corner, it has my initials, but it has my account. The neat thing about my account is it sets up my preferences, it sets up my reports, and as the homework I've done or the work I've done, it saves it if I want to save it so that I can use it at any particular time. It's quite powerful. SciVal is a part of the Elsevier empire, dare say. So they have usernames and passwords to individual databases we'll talk about and to the suite of journals. So you may have an Elsevier email authentication or registration for other sorts of packages. So make sure you sort that out. I had to sort that out. So when I go to SciVal, I have a username and password that works when I need it to use. There are great people to help me out with that. We're going to talk about alternate metrics databases. Here's a number of them. the Shanghai, THE, QS, US News, Maclean's. Oh, we all know about Maclean's. And then other tools that we have access to that you may not have known of, that during my adventure of learning more about metrics databases and how they work for institutional addresses, for corporate information, or for personal researcher to discern impact and publishing. There's a number of tools, and I want to talk about those for a minute, just to give you a sense of what I've learned and how this relates to SciVal as well. Alternate Metric Database. Linda Snover, Director of Institutional Research at Massachusetts Institute of Tech, MIT, in this post said, "Let me be clear. There's no such thing as a perfect university ranking. There is no correct outcome, as there is no single model of excellence in higher education. And every ranking is based on the available, comparable data, and is built on the subjective judgment of its compilers." And there's the link that I got that from, an Elsevier page. So it's neat that Elsevier would say this. Some people think bibliometrics and metrics is a gray science, full of biases and assumptions and qualitative and quantitative indicators. Sure, you can use metrics databases for a number of tools to determine the economic, societal patterns, the disciplinary trends over years, over cross institutions, researchers and subject areas. Some of these particular tools have weighted or normalized data, and sometimes it's like comparing apples to oranges, and so it's hard to speak in the same language so that you sound valid and credible when you talk about these sorts of things. Metrics databases are used to rank institutions, but also rank subject areas and departments or faculties, people, rank and research. Context is everything. So we all know, if you don't know now, that it's difficult to be very objective, since metrics databases use subjective metrics analysis, and it all stems from the data that they pull. Hopefully you get a taste of that, but again, these are useful and powerful tools. And what I've learned in learning through these tools and SciVal and other tools is that it's increasingly becoming a recognized and important and necessary tool for an academic institution to move forward and measure impact and research performance. Elsevier put together a quick guide to 7 major ranking reports, which is here. Good for them. Here's the 7 reports, tools that they used. I mentioned some of those. They're standards. Some are free, and most of them are free. Some of them you pay for, some of them report. You can work with them to do a number of things. I just want to go through these and other sorts of reports and metric benchmarking data systems. Give you a sense of what I've learned about them. CWTS is free. It's quite interesting. Includes Brock there, institutional. Again, you always have to discern what and where and how do they manipulate the data to make the decisions that they do. Best universities in Canada, the THE, has a number of rankings that you can use for a number of types of resources and number of data. Interesting. Top universities, QS is another major tool that uses. Brock makes some of these and doesn't make other ones. Best global universities in Canada, US News, gives you a number, and you have to understand what that means. But again, you have to discern context. Where do they pull the data? How do they normalize it? And what does it mean? Because numbers without context are pretty useless. Maclean's, well, we all know about Maclean's. What data, where data, who gets the data, what do they use, how important this is. But Brock is pretty heavy into this of rankings, and Brock doesn't work too well in these rankings. But again, how does that work for us? But again, what you get from this presentation is Maclean's is one, and in my estimation, for what little I know, not a very good ranking metrics tool when compared to other open data and other commercial proprietary databases, SciVal being one of them. Altmetric. Interesting story. Where did this come from? Alternate metrics. Explorer for institutions. Everybody's seen these in journal articles or reports, how they use alternate or non-quantitative data sources for metrics to discern the importance. Interesting initiative, well-founded, and sometimes this data is included and aggregated with other sorts of qualitative and quantitative data to pull rankings. A Microsoft Academic like Google Scholar is increasingly becoming a really neat search tool. I've listed it to all my science guides. I'm a science librarian because it does cluster analysis, and kind of like Google, you don't know how their algorithms work, but they're quite powerful. We perceive they are. Same with Microsoft Academic and its search tool, where it pulls its data, how it does things. Here's Brock University's page of Microsoft Academic. Publications over time. This is free data. You can look at authors and conferences and journals. Again, a metrics or how to discern research impact, or also to determine how impact scholarly output does to perceive, or what a university does and how it reports itself. I don't know how to pronounce this. SciVal. SGR is what they usually say, is another tool that's quite amazing that does country rankings. I found this quite fascinating. And the indicators they use a smattering of tools, research-based, innovative-based, and societal-based metrics. So they use a number of measures to come to the tools that they use to do the rankings that they do. Neat thing about any particular tool like SciVal is you could say you're comparing apples to oranges when you take different metrics. But if you use the same tool each time, and you hopefully comparing institutions and research methods and outcomes and algorithms the same way, if you're using the same tool over time, gives validity to the results. Google Scholar is important. Here's one page. Sid Segalowitz, who's kind of with us and not with us. Amazing. Provides indicators, H-indexes, how many H-indexes you have, impact, profiling is based on his scholarly output. And then Google Scholar of who's cited who and who has citations to who and who's linked to other resources. A neat particular tool. Hazing.com, publish or perish. It's probably one of the very first open source ranking tools for institutions and amazingly researchers. It's amazing. It involves programming. It's quite valid. You have to download it, but it works quite well. And it gives answers that some other metric tools don't give. Interesting. About publish and perishers, here's a number of the metrics that they use. H-index, G-index, averages of tools and citation rates, and they normalize their data as well. Bibliometrics. I saw this everywhere. Supported by a number of people using a number of data. Couldn't get into it, but if you know something about it, let me know about it. I'd be interested to know more about it without, I guess, paying for it. Here's a toolkit we have on our own webpage in the library. So we have a research page that helps show people these sorts of things. The metrics toolkit. If you've never mentioned, it's kind of neat. What it does, it takes a format like authors or papers or blogs. This is the one for journal access or articles. And it takes a number of metrics and kind of tells you how they work, gives current links to resources, and provides a commentary for the uninitiated or just the person that wants to know more about how do metrics work. And as a toolkit, it offers a number of different tools depending on your discipline, your preferences, the validity of results. It provides good commentary as well. Brock University has a number of tools. ResearchGate. Wow. A lot of people use it. A lot of people don't use it. 4,609 members attributed to Brock University. I wonder where they got that, but look at all the research they've used. So then they have profiles for the faculties, Faculty of Applied Health Sciences, and gives a score. So you have an RG score for that. Or for individuals, Cheryl McCormick's page, quite a prolific researcher, publisher, gives a number of tools, and so you could take the scores from not only the institution, but from the faculty, but for the individual as well. Again, a different measure to measure people against each other for impact and research performance. Web of Science, published by Clarivate, is a database that we have access to. We've always had access to a long time. I remember Web of Science as a paper index long ago. I've been here too many years and used print indexes and CD-ROM indexes and online digital dial-up accesses, and now we have a suite of databases people take advantage of. They don't know anything different. Web of Science is a database we have, and we have back files we have perpetual access to. So we get access to data that they use, knowing that their biases, their tools, the decisions they make, and how they collect and use data. an interesting story of how Web of Science has evolved over the years. So Web of Science, you search for Brock University, there's 14,109 publications in the core index. Understanding you know how core works, but you can use that data to find information about publishing records, citations, and trends as well. To create, eventually down the road, something that as interesting as this is graphics that illustrate how important, how impressive, or connections or collaborations. And we also have access, subscription access to journal citation reports, or JCRs. So they're journals, Web of Science or Clarivate, that have rankings based on a number of figures and a well-determined methodology, however credible or not credible, over time, that you can discern where people publish, the impact of those particular journals as a measure of research performance. JCR is sourced by the Web of Science. It's a premier citation index, covers core journals, not only in sciences, but in the social sciences as well, and other areas, if you believe them. Here's the journal citations reports for Nature Climate Change. This is a journal. It gives you an impact figure. It bundles it in a category in databases. It gives you factors and figures that so many things, impact factors that you could use to rank and quantitatively measure why these journals and the research and articles in them are so important when compared to other journals. So here's our ultimate databases. Some I've worked with extensively, some I haven't, but this is the main ones that I've gone, but realizing there's a list that could be 2, 3, even 4 times as long. And increasingly now, like most of research, there's proprietary databases that we'll talk about. There's open distribution of results of rankings. And there's some databases that don't give the data away, but allow open access to data sources so that you may create your own rankings as well. The two that I'd like to talk about today, and we're going to talk about the workshop, are Elsevier's, SciVal. We'll talk more about that. But they also own Mendeley, which is a citation management system. We don't provide access to it. And actually, Mendeley, as a free download, which has limited access, I've never got to be able to work at Brock University. So even asking Elsevier to help us with that, ITS can't get it to work. But it's a tool that creates data to supplement information. Reaxis is a chemistry database we pay for. Science Direct we get from CRKN, which is a cross-Canada consortium of journals. So we get all of Elsevier's journal content, mainly in science and health, STEM areas. We subscribe to Embase, which is the European Medline or PubMed equivalent, through the Ovid interface. So we have a number of Elsevier products here. We also have a number of Clarivate products. We have the Web of Science Core Collection. Insights is SciVal's, one of their competitors, similar sort of tool. We don't have access to Insights. We have access to the JCR, as I said, and we don't have access to it as a proprietary institutional subscription, though you can get access to it at any particular time, a portion of it anyways. Clarivate. I can't get access to Insights and I can't show you, but you know what? The University of Saskatchewan did a report on relationship building on October 8th, 2019. It's a WebEx presentation, 2019, which is great. And there's their web address there. Go look at their presentation, which is quite impressive. It gives you facts and figures, gives you a sense of where they pull the data and what it looks like as well. Maybe no different than SciVal. There's things that Clarivate says Insights does, that SciVal doesn't, and probably vice versa. Two international, lots of work put into these particular tools. But I would suggest you look at this particular report. I don't know why they published it openly, but it's there for you to use. It gives you a sense of the things that come from it from this particular perspective, and it actually shows you the actual tool better than me showing it to you, but I don't have access to it as well. Things that they've shown in using VOS Viewer to view and display your data is author collaboration. So you take authors and how do they fit and how do they relate to the strengths of that collaboration and the amount of that collaboration. It's amazing how you visualize it. And the DSL and all their workshops do an excellent job of helping people to visualize data, choosing which package to work, and then getting people started and helping them along the way. Here's another visualization I saw, organizational country collaboration. So here's an institution that did this. Here's the source if you wanted to look at it. but it tells you what countries that this institution collaborates with, and kind of on a geographic area. This is the one I really found interesting: research topic network visualization. So it took all the subjects, the words, and how they were used. And there's lots of fuzzy areas here, but it's kind of interesting. It maps out all the relationships between all the research areas at a particular institution for this institution, not Brock as well. So you can take the data from Clarivate and even from SciVal. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not, but you can visualize the data in a number of ways. That won't be the purpose of the workshop, but it's often the next question. I've got this spreadsheet, I've got this list, I've got this data. How do I present it so that it creates a visualization that people will understand, or maybe go, wow, that's amazing, I didn't see that. Just tells a story in a way that can't be done any other way. So here we are, settle that to get to SciVal. It's a bibliographic platform powered by the Elsevier Scopus database. Again, we don't have Scopus here. Some Ontario universities have Scopus and Web of Science. Not too many, usually the big ones like the U of T's, the Westerns of the world. Some have one as opposed to the other, though they overlap quite a bit, but they have a functionality and they have a uniqueness about themselves that some people prize. But usually it's a legacy argument such that we have Web of Science, used to be Web of Knowledge for a number of years. We bought the back files. We have, let's say, a repository of those sorts of tools that we've kind of moved forward and just never moved forward with getting Scopus. Though we were one of the very first universities in all of Ontario to grab Elsevier's journal content way back when. SciVal provides data built on publication citations as the primary data unit. Again, that's where it builds its tool from. It provides insight into individuals, so individual researchers, subject, how that's related to is interesting, institutional, and global trends, so that you can benchmark how Brock or a department or a person compares quantitatively with other sorts of similar areas. It compares the performance of institution, countries, and predefined groups in our research areas over time. That's the interesting, over time. So over a 5-year period, last year, you can get data, compare that data over a year, so you're looking at trends and patterns. It's best suited to disciplines where scholarly journal publications is the common output, where field is typically dictated by the discipline of the journal, not the content of the article. Whereas these tools are usually STEM, science, technology, engineering, medicine. Do they work on social sciences? Yes. Do they work in humanities? Yes, but maybe not as well, based on the publishing pattern. So this is, again, this is Elsevier's wording. Good for them to state that out front. SciVal includes biorama analysis, whatever that is, to identify groups of publications and publication sets, and creates predetermined topics and topic clusters. So they have their own subject classification of what chemistry and organic chemistry and bioinorganic chemistry is, so that they can explain that and understand that to provide context, so that it provides validity to the results, if indeed you know how they derive their quantitative measures. 4 modules in this SciVal database: an overview module, benchmarking, collaboration, and research trends. So there's 4 modules, and presently we subscribe to the benchmarking module, which is good, and it's a good start, and it kind of gives you an insight of how that actually works. I looked all over to see great current tools, because in bibliographic information and these sorts of tools and packages, currency is really important because things are changing so fast. Anything a year or 2 out of date, though it may help you to understand this particular topic or tool, it really is almost too old. Here's something done in 2019. It's an hour and 17 minutes. It's a presentation by this particular colleague at Imperial College London. It's quite good because he laughs at himself. He does things with all the modules. It gives you a sense of the potential of these particular tools, as well as the trips, the pitfalls, the biases. I found it. I watched the whole thing. Kind of weird, but I watched the whole thing. But it's there if you want to watch a current, comprehensive SciVal presentation to an academic audience. So here, as I said, as you get into SciVal, this is what it should look like. has my account, my source. It gives you lots of help. One good thing about SciVal is lots of examples, lots of help to understand what it's looking for. Go to benchmarking, and so here's something that I did. It has excellent play value, and again, this is part of your homework, is to pick a particular research topic, institution, subject area, or metric that's of interest to Brock University, and present this sort of screen or table or chart. As you can see on the left-hand side, institutions, and we'll go over that in different places. Usually, Brock is comparing itself to different or similar peer institutions, not the Westerns or U of T's, or the McGills of the world, but I always find our key comparators when it comes up in conversations are places like Ryerson and Windsor and Wilfrid Laurier, Regina, Winnipeg, sometimes Carleton. So you can use those sorts of things and then compare on graphs, or in this case on a table of certain tools. And so we'll go over this. We use this particular time period. 5 years is usually a benchmarking period. Some or all subject areas. I looked at the table or a chart, and I used a benchmarking tool. I included these universities and awards, volume, value in US dollars. So if you look at Brock University, it says $22 million over this period, and then you benchmarks it each particular year going backwards. And I guess you can compare either using a chart or a graph. One interesting benchmarking metric. I'm encouraging you to find another one. So you can play with these sorts of things. Pretty flexible, pretty fast. Then you can export, download, or create or take graphic pictures from these, do screenshots from these as well. Here's another one. I looked for that particular tool. Actually, I just took out all the ephemera or the framing of this, and so here's that whole table. Here's another table. I looked at all subject areas. I used a different source, ASGC. Again, they're all pretty similar of how they qualify the data. And this talks about scholarly output. So Brock University for 2018, 647. Again, context is everything. What does that mean? Now, when you compare to other institutions, including Canada or Ontario, you can chart it over years. You can look at it. You can just take the numbers and add it to a database. Or you can create your own benchmarking metric. And so SciVal is quite neat. So if you have a subject area, let's say only in viticulture, or a research group, or a department, so you can create those tools. It takes a bit of work, but once they're set up, they can usually run from year to year to year. Again, Elsevier and SciVal are great people to help you with that. Here's another output, scholarly output benchmarking for a number of terms and keys. Not only institutions like Brock University, but a department like Classics. Anywhere. A person, a Jane, her publication record, journals that you can do this for and how it compares, a research cluster of interest to only in viticulture, and then a person, Sid Segalowitz, at the very bottom. So these are the general parameters that you get to work with in this particular tool. So institutions, subjects, people or researchers, sources of publications, research clusters, and that's pretty varied. You can make up your own research cluster, and people. Interesting, eh? Scholarly output. What I did is I took that same set and I kind of flip of a switch. I did citation count. So how many times have they been cited over these years by each one of these particular tools or metrics? Sid Segalowitz, wow. 21 times in 2018 in this database using these tools. Again, context is everything. How are we measuring this and what does it mean as well? And how do we compare? Here's another one, view counts. Increasingly, Web of Science does this, but yet not only do people cite a tool, a research publication, the importance of that, how important is that research publication, how many times it's actually cited somewhere else, so cited references, but how many times it's viewed. That's an interesting metric that's just taking speed now. So who's looking at what? So in 2018, Sid Segalowitz's publications in this, again, you have to understand context. 61 is the number that they've used as well. International collaboration, a bit more trickier, a bit more grayer, but how this understands and how you explain this to somebody else, I'm not sure, but it's a metric that you could use, and you may find another metric that's equally as interesting. So for each subject area, each date range, each tool and metric you're using, then how that's interpreted or visualized, and the data that's produced, whether it's in a chart or a table, it's up to you. I guess there's thousands of different permutations. So here's benchmarking. Again, this is kind of like a report sort of thing. So since 1996, however valid that is, until the current 2019, last current year, they have data. How is scholarly output, again, discerned with the context of this particular database, is using these tools, using these variables and metrics. How does Brock compare? Again, you can manipulate this and download this, put it into a spreadsheet, and then use different metrics or create your own metrics within the context of SciVal as well. So quite powerful, not only visually, but data-wise, and to track things over a number of years. And again, you can use this to track economic impact, societal impact, dealing with patents, or patents, as the British would say, and within a discipline, within a region like Ontario over a number of years. You can look at funding, you can use it for recruitment, research performance, for grant proposals, or to report writing, or collaboration. I guess context is everything. And SciVal helps you to answer questions that are pretty easy, but also kind of discuss how to discern this particular metric that would maybe be of importance to you if indeed you're wanting to include this in a report or tell a story that can't be told any other way. Impact. It uses a verb or a noun. What kind of impact do Brock research make with their scholarly activities? Well, ORS is certainly concerned about this. I think individual researchers, research teams or labs, groups that work together or groupings that collaborate outside or inside the university would really want to know the greater the impact, the greater importance, presumably, of what a research impact or performance they're actually doing. So that's a big conversation point. And I'm not going to end here, but I'm going to tell you that a discussion on this across disciplines and with the help of the Digital Scholarship Lab and noted professionals like myself as a science librarian and a huge body of colleagues, scholarly librarians who are just amazing people, can help you to know what good questions to ask, to discern what measures work best that help position, describe, and tell a story about Brock University researchers who are quite amazing. Here's a quote I came across. Elsevier actually put this up. It says, "Not everything that counts can be counted, and not everything that can be counted counts." Now, this is attributed to Einstein's and Cameron, but it was in the Research Metrics Guidebook. So it's a great tool that gives almost every answer to every question. Pretty current publication by Elsevier SciVal to say, how does this work? And where do we get our data? And what assumptions, and to their credit, what biases are involved? Here's a bias that they put in here. Again, remember I said that these work within types of publications based on the type of research and the articles that are produced and the impact that they make. So in neurosciences, which is at the top of the list, lots of publications, a lengthy reference list, a number of co-authors. Neuroscience is a big area of science at Brock University, and this is true. I see this working with these people in the library. Arts and humanities, few publications in interdisciplinary areas or areas that do reviews or book chapters or write one good book every 3 years or a bad book every 3 years. And so apples and oranges, not only between and across institution, across time, across formats, across a number of research areas, but also across disciplines as well. Here's a publication that I put out with colleagues at other universities, an article, a peer-reviewed scholarly journal article, Information-Seeking Behaviors, Attitudes, and Choices of Academic Mathematicians, published in 2020. An interesting publication where we, across a number of Ontario universities, found and articulated in an interesting methodology that mathematicians do see the world differently than physicists or chemists, two other papers that we're doing as well and have done. So this is true in my world, and the views, the impact, how it's measured, the performance of this particular paper, this idea, is it similar to other physical sciences? Probably. Other faculties? Could be. Other institutions? Presumably. But again, those are the gray areas that deal with metrics studies that you always have to articulate. But indeed, when you're speaking apples to apples and oranges to oranges, you can maybe quantify or qualify these results. And we did this in this hard paper. So I've seen this happen in this particular area. I did a proposal for the International Cold Climate Wine Symposium. Supposed to happen last year. Hope it happens this year. And here's a pretty ugly formatted 2-page proposal I put together for a poster, and we were successful in it. Colleagues from Cornell and Washington State put together, using these tools, is certain ideas. And so I know I'm promoting myself, but why not? We defined what cool climate meant. Is there such a thing as cool climate research in the whole context of oenology, viticulture, wine and grape growing? Come to the session if we have it. I'll tell you what the results are. The answers are quite surprising. So here's your homework. Get a SciVal username and account and check out benchmarking. So make sure it works before you start. So get it, use it, try it. It should be good for as long as we have a subscription. We'll see everyone with questions and comments in hand, so write them out, send them to us ahead of time. Guillaume and myself will be there on December 7th at 10 o'clock. Create and share a SciVal benchmarking report, whether it's a graphic visualization, a chart related to Brock University, a comparator, a research group. I want you to create something and then to share with it. We'll do that around the room sort of things, is share what you did. And if you don't get to it, that's okay too. But it'd be interesting to see what people come up with. Share this workshop with other ones. So if you're watching this video, the presentation, invite other people. We're going to do that the week before the workshop on the 7th. And a big thanks to the DSL people, Tim and Daniel, who do a great work, Brock Library colleagues, and the Brock ORS staff, and all the contacts that have helped make this happen. So here it is. December 7th at 10 o'clock. Hope to see you there. If not, connect with one of us at any particular time. At this time, I'm going to jump into SciVal, change the screen here, because I want to show you what I've gotten as well. Give me a chance to get here. So here's my benchmarking screen. Let me just make it bigger here. So here it is, that chart that I showed you here, it tells you the tools. I'm just going to concentrate on the tools as they are here and how they actually work to give you a sense of how they work as well. Let's go back a minute. Whoops. It dropped me out. There's that table that I had, all the key figures. And if you see on the left-hand side, the institutional button that allows you to pick or choose, add people. You can find them and search for them and add them. Research groups. So this is a publication author, a researcher author. I picked someone at Brock. And in doing that, I could have chosen other people. But again, you're limited to the scholarly results as published in the Scopus database, which you don't have access to. But it gives you an opening to what's there and what's not there. Another tool that you can use, countries and regions. Canada's there. Why don't they have Ontario there? Good question for SciVal people. This is a really interesting area, research clusters. So it's their discerned taxonomy or classification of subjects that they could use. That's interesting as well because, and then you can ask SciVal, or you can create your own subject area to be used on an ongoing basis, either just to get information or to use it over a period of time. Research areas, again, they have larger sorts of research areas, so it's a different way of classifying subject expertise besides faculty and department and individual. And then at the bottom, you can look at journals if you want as well. So you can pick a particular series of journals or journals that are there as well. It is a bibliographic database as well. You can pick your time range and change this at any time. You can check your subject area, and the classifications are here that are the tool that pulls the data. There's 3 or 4 of them that are here. And then you can change the metric at any particular time. So published data, scholarly output viewed. You can click out the metric, cited references, and then pick. Now, as you choose that metric, it changes the table in front of you that gives you the numbers that you need to do. It also helps you to use the terms such that you have your My SciVal account where you can put these reports and or it sets up what you've done so you can just continue with what you've viewed. The benchmarking program that we've subscribed to, it's there. We don't have access to Scopus, but it'll show you what's in Scopus as well. The reporting tool that helps you to take the data and manipulate it and then export it, either it's in spreadsheet format or add to a reporting module, and then it allows you to chart or graph data as well. But you can do this in Excel as well. So however works best for you. So I say this to say that you can add your own SciVal categories, you can play with it, the chart, pick the tools. Maybe you can pick the institutions that I may not have used, either they're in Ontario or across Canada, or they may or may not include Brock or from around the world. It's a database of over 70 million records since 1996, or an extensive time period, and building on the Scopus databases, which have been around, adds great validity and a lot of data to create interesting tables, charts that can be manipulated. But it's great because, as it says, it includes metrics, quantitative, that can be turned into qualitative metrics to tell a story or to present data in a way that is of interest not only to the Office of Research Services, but to groups of people, faculties, departments, as individuals as well. I'm thinking this is not only valuable of interest to librarians and bibliophiles everywhere, but people who just want to dig deeper to the fringe of this particular subject area to either validate or to tell a story that can't be told any other way. I'm thinking this is only the beginning of the conversation. I look forward to hearing from you at the workshop, but most importantly, hearing from Joan, the Elsevier expert, who will not only just show us the basics, but what's new, what's coming up, but tips and tricks, but also things that I'm just beginning to explore that he'll just show you to open your mind to the possibilities of using SciVal and the benchmarking account to be used at any particular time for any particular purpose, and hopefully within each faculty, the library, and Office of Research Services will pull together a group of people that are experts at it that can share their expertise, their stories, not only to grab and to provide context and to tell good stories and initiate conversations, but also what's really exciting about this, and I find quite powerful, I'm not very good at it, but DSL people are, how to visualize that data so that it's powerful, so people look at it and go, that's amazing, that's interesting, that tells a great story, and initiates a conversation that can't really be done any other way. So thanks for listening. I know it's taken a while, but I look forward to seeing you then, hopefully, and get that homework done. Bye for now.